So, hello, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And today we're going to go through one of the most amazing books there is. We're going to go through How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. It's not Carnegie, as I always thought, actually really back in the days. And this may indeed be kind of the third time I'm going through this book, but I'll see you after the intro. It is actually a bit dumb, quote unquote, I'm sorry, that I am now going through this book, but, big but, really big but, I do just want to read it for myself, indeed, because I've forgotten about a lot of the rules that I've learned back in the days, as I've, gone through the book, obviously, but I thought, well, why shouldn't I share it? Why shouldn't I also give it to other people that, haven't gone through this book summary or this book in a really long time as well? And so I thought, well, let's just record it. How to Win Friends and Influence People from 1936, by the way, is one of the most popular social skills books in the world. Carnegie, the author, mostly advises on how to communicate and how to behave with others. And the rules, just, as some sort of a preface, they are fucking incredible. Anyway, bullet summary. Part 1. Oh, here's a pictorial summary with all Carnegie principles. Smile, remember their names, be a good listener, talk in terms of his interest, make him feel important, and so on and so forth. And, just this column in and of itself is just so tremendously valuable. It is insane what this book is about. It really is. I'm not able to describe how much it, maybe also helped me in my days. About the author, Dale Carnegie was an American writer and author and one of the first self-help gurus in history. How to Win Friends and Influence People is one of the best-selling books ever and the best-selling book in the self-help genre. He's also the author of How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, as well as how to speak in public or something, and he has also given courses and so on and so forth. Principle numero uno: don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Criticism is terrible when it wants to influence people or change their behavior. It is because criticism will put the recipient on the defensive, and he can't listen to you or focus on changing when he is busy defending himself. The opposite might actually happen. To protect his ego, he will make up a story to rationalize that he isn't so wrong after all, and that you are a jerk. Well, my note: criticism indeed often raises the flight or fight response, or fight or flight response in people, and yes, this is indeed the case. This is also one of the reasons why I like to practice very, very tremendously careful communication. Because I do not want to get into that space, I do not want people to feel bad about themselves. I don't want people to just get into this defensive state, especially also when you're just trying to get to the other rules and other principles of the book. It is really heavily gonna handicap you to do so. Principle 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Appreciation takes out the best from people. Dale Carnegie says that appreciation leverages one of the most difficult needs for people to meet, the need to feel important. Check Tony Robbins' 6 Human Needs. Carnegie says that also flattery, such as fake appreciation, might also work. It worked for Disraeli with Queen Victoria, he says. Greenie describes it in The Art of Seduction, which is another very well-known book. But that doesn't mean it will work for you as well. Instead, always make your appreciation sincere and also honest. My note: later social experiments showed how flattery, even when people suspect second motives, is still effective. Check Cialdini's Influence, another super duper amazing book. I have appreciated if appreciating anything in people is difficult for you, Carnegie recommends you adopt Ralph Emerson's, the author of, yet again, some really amazing books, but I do not remember the titles, unfortunately. Mindset, when he says, and I paraphrase, or the author of the summary paraphrases, every man you meet is superior to you in something, and you can learn from him. And well, it is indeed an amazing mindset, and I hate this word to have, but in the end, it is very difficult though, and especially when it is about people that are younger than you, people that apparently are just, way down the line in the corporate ladder or just in the social hierarchical ladder and so on and so forth. It does not make it any more easy or any easier if this is the case, but still you can learn something if you want to learn something. And most often we just, it's not necessarily about what these people say, but our observation of what they're talking about and the things that we are interpreting into what they're talking about, because if my little sister is talking about I don't know, a fight that she's had with a friend or whatnot, this might remind me of something that I've experienced in the past. This might remind me of something that I've read, in a book or just online or wherever. And, in this case, it is just truly, truly valuable. Anyway, principle number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. To get what you want from people, you must first understand what they want. This is the what is in it for me principle, and it is also a law of power in Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. And then you can present your wants and needs in a way that will satisfy their wants and also needs. Also read The Laws of Social Exchange, How to Become a Leader. Yes, something that I went through not yesterday, I think not even the day before, but maybe the day before. So today is Sunday, it might have been Thursday or something. Incredibly useful. Think about and also communicate what is in it for them. So the other person, the person that you're talking to, the person that you're asking basically for a favor or just something in return, what is in it for them? Because if there's nothing in it for them, why the fuck would they help you? There is no benefit in doing so then. There is no benefit in helping somebody. Well, of course, it feels good and it is a good deed and whatnot, but let's be honest. Is this really what people are focusing on in the first place? Not necessarily, unfortunately, but it is what it is. And I think if you kind of think about interactions that you have had, when somebody asked you for a favor, then, what is in it for me? Definitely something that you've asked yourself as well. Part 2 is 6 ways to make people like you. Become genuinely interested in other people. Dale Carnegie says that the only way to make solid and lasting relationships is to be genuinely, not faking it by the way, interested in them, as the author is famously quoted with saying, to be interesting, be interested. You make more friends in 2 months by being interested in them than in 2 years making them interested in you. I know that it is another rule, but I'm just, willing to call it out now. Indeed, just listening. Just listening to people and asking questions, which should not stem from, okay, I just want this person to like me and therefore I'm just going to listen even though I really do want to say something. No, a conversation that is only about you listening is also not a good conversation. You also have to give good responses, and you also have to give well-educated responses as well, so that it is a good conversation, since it is a conversation, not a fucking monologue the other person is having, the person that you're talking to is having. But people say this is one of the reasons why we're having 2 ears and only 1 mouth, because listening first and then talking. Smile. Dale Carnegie says that a smile is a way of saying, I like you and you make me happy. So smile to people when you greet them. My note Schaefer in the like switch recommends you also flash your eyebrows upwards, which is an unconscious indicator of liking and acceptance. Carnegie says that our actions influence our feelings as much as our feelings influence our actions. So by smiling, you will also be naturally happier. Tony Robbins says that motion creates emotion. And this just reminds me of some actually pretty good times, back at my parents' house, recording, going through book summaries, this, essentially being the only thing that I've done for, some extended periods of time. And I don't know, it's been amazing. So in general, it's been an amazing journey overall with the podcast, and the amount that I've learned is insane, and also the amount of English practice is also insane, and I'm tremendously grateful for the fact that I was motivated actually by Gary Vee to start this whole journey. My note, that might be somewhat true, albeit there has been valid and scientific criticism to what's been later dubbed the facial feedback hypothesis, I guess. See self-help myths and pop psychology. Yeah, of course. Whatever you're reading, take it with a grain of salt, unless it is something scientifically proven through studies or with studies, or some other experiments that just really show and validate the information that's been given, which is just not the case right there. Of course, you could also try it out. You can go around and meet your friends and whatnot, and always smile. But yeah, I do still want to mention that, in my point of view, when you're talking to somebody, and it is actually pretty interesting, when you're talking to somebody about something negative, do not look them into the eyes. This is something that I've read. I don't know where, it might be a book, might be an article, but you shouldn't be doing this apparently, because then these people associate this negative experience that they've had with you. If this just wouldn't happen if you do not look them into the eyes, I kind of doubt it. Depends on the situation, depends on things, but most often when we're feeling something, and when we're having actually really strong feelings, we do tend to remember those certain moments better and more easily than when it's just something. But still, smiling is a good thing. Make people happy. Remember their names. People love the sound of their name more than any other sound in the world. Remember their names, which will make them feel valued. His name is to him the sweetest and most important sound in any language. It is actually really interesting. Some people do not really care about their names or about their name. I would still argue in general they do. Yes. Period. Principle 4, be a good listener. The most important element of being a good conversationalist is being a good listener. And to become a good listener, the number one rule is to care. To become a great listener, care about the speaker. Because if you really do care about what the person is talking about and who this person is, well, I would also argue that people notice. People notice quite a lot of things. People aren't dumb. Most often they just can't say what it is that might be quote unquote bothering them. That might just be might be a gut feeling, they say. But in the end, it is indeed about, I don't know, you, I guess. Principle number 5, talk in terms of his interest. Most people like to discuss their interests and hobbies, and that is why Dale Carnegie recommends you to talk about what interests them. Yes, of course, especially when it is a very, when it is a person that is highly knowledgeable in a certain space. Of course I'm gonna fucking talk about that space, because this person can talk a lot and I can also listen a lot. And this doesn't mean that it kind of always sounds such a bit manipulative, and I'm just only doing it because I know that the other person is gonna like me then. But no, not really. I mean, this is one way of seeing it, but another way of seeing it is definitely like, it is interesting. It is interesting to listen to somebody that is very knowledgeable in a certain space, because I know that I'm gonna be able to get a lot out of this conversation. But of course, it is indeed something that I've kind of forgotten about, but it just does make sense, Talk about things the other person is interested in, period. Talk in terms of his interests. Most people like to discuss their interests and hobbies, and that is why Dale Carnegie make him feel important. To make others feel important, Carnegie recommends you ask yourself, what is it about them that you admire? Once you know what you admire about them, it will reflect in your demeanor, or I think it is demeanor or the manner, well. And you can also tell them about your admiration. Yes, and I would also say, especially when it comes to women, when you're talking to women, just giving compliments that is just not about how good they look, something they, hear all the fucking time, something that, may be valuable to some degree, but really invaluable compared to telling them what you deeply appreciate about their personality and about their character. Of course, this is something different, but I do want to underline once again, it should be honest and it should be genuinely meant. It's not about saying something. It's not about just, trying as hard as you can that, someone likes you. This is going to backfire in the real end so heavily. Because, there's going to be some times where you just do not want to put in all the energy, quote unquote. But yeah. But once again, it is a conversation. Part 3. How to win people to your way of thinking. To get the best of an argument, avoid it. Carnegie says you will always lose in an argument. If you lose, you lose, and if you win, the other will feel resentful and you'll still lose. The only way to win an argument is by avoiding it. Yes, I would say so as well. Which, boils down to good communication and the ability to just, actually indeed get around arguments. Of course, I'm having my opinion and the other person is having his opinion. And well, obviously, when this person is just really trying hard to, say that his or her opinion is just what it is just reality, it is just God-given and whatever, you know what I mean, then I'm just, saying, okay, yeah, I do understand your points. And I'm not going to be like, okay, but my opinion is this and that and the other thing. No, this leads to confrontation, this leads to arguments, and this leads to some vibes no one is going to appreciate in the end. Show respect for his opinions. When you attack someone's opinion, you will push them on the defensive. And again, if you get into an ideological battle, you only always lose. Yes. And this once again, at least at my point of view, is about really careful communication. Phrasing things in a way that that does not touch any very, quote unquote weak points, some sort of. What I mean is, of course, I'm not going to say like, okay, I do think that this group and the other group, they are really shitty and I hate them. What if the person's father belonged to such a group? What it is about ethnicities, what it is about, I don't know, some gangs or some other shit. Phrasing things in consciously, so that there is no room for direct confrontations as well and arguments as well. If you're wrong, admit it, and do so quickly and empathetically, says Carnegie. It will boost his ego and confidence, because if you're wrong, he must be right. My note, another great advantage of admitting fault is that it shows a strength of character. Most people shift blame, and those who take full ownership set themselves apart. I do just remember something. I remember that I have to write an email. I really do have to do that. Indeed, actually 2 emails, but one is more important than the other one. Yes. I particularly love the answer from Albert Hubbard that Carnegie used as an example. When a reader sent an irate mail to attack the author's opinion, Hubbard replied, period. How to think it over, I don't think I completely agree with it myself. Oh, I'm sorry, come to think it over. Not everything I wrote yesterday appeals to me today. I'm glad to learn what you think on the subject. The next time you are in the neighborhood, please visit us and we'll talk about it. Yes, this just says, okay, you are right. But what to do if just it is not right and it is some utter bullshit? I mean, this is something that is highly subjective, and therefore one is always going to be right, just because this is my subjective opinion and my subjective worldview. You know, it's going to be right for me. If it is right for you, well, do I really care about that? Principle 4, begin in a friendly way. Another again, anger against anger is the fool's way of discussing and solving issues, implies the author. It will get you nowhere, except maybe to trading blows. Begin in a friendly way instead, and you will immensely lower his guard, lower the tension, and dramatically increase the chances of a resolution. Also read Best Communication Skills books. Principle number 5, get him saying yes immediately. Never start with disagreement, as that is a slippery slope. Start with what you agree on instead, and you know this. I don't know if this implies that you already know the person to some degree, but well, I don't know. I think that one can figure that out fairly fast. Just you know, by having a very neutral conversation. Well, anyway. Carnegie says that when someone starts out saying yes in a few times, the natural tendency is to keep going with yeses, and he will immediately place himself in a more positive and conductive mental disposition. My note, that is what the sales technique yes letter is based on. Check out my article on the nasty effects of a no letter to understand the opposite effect. Something that sometimes you can see on Instagram, you know, when what is going on there? There we go. When you're having some, I don't understand. I think that maybe, you know, it might be about that indeed. But I guess it stopped. This is some strange thing. This light, some sort of a traffic light in the right corner of my recording software. It's just blinking. Green, yellow, red, yellow, green, yellowish, orangish, red, green. Well, is there something in the background actually? Maybe I should close some things. I don't know. Might be a good idea. Anyway, I do hope that the audio is at least fine. You know, the video is probably gonna be fucked up, but anyway. Principle 6. Have I explained my point? On Instagram, you're having certain, what is it? You know, when people ask for opinions, you know, and you're having this yes or no kind of switch type thing, and you know, especially also a few in a row, and at the very end there you can buy something. You know, are you looking for something to, you know, lose some weight? Okay, yeah, willing to do that. Have you always struggled with losing weight? Okay, yeah, I did that. Do you just really want to have it easy? Yes, I do want to have that. So here's my product. Okay, yes, I'm gonna buy it. Anyway, let him do a great deal of the talking. Carnegie recommends you never brag and never monopolize the conversation. Do the opposite, let the other person do most of the talking. Once again, it's a conversation. Principle 7, let him feel that the idea is his. Yeah. And, you know, this is still something that I to some degree like to do. And I do clearly feel that, you know, throughout the years and, you know, all the books and things that I went through, it really did help me and really did transform me in a very subconscious way. So that, I don't know, I mean, when there is a group project, for example, and I did something in a pretty good way, I'm just never. I tend not to say, okay, yeah, it is something great that I did or some shit. You know, when you're talking to authorities and my group is kind of next to me, of course I'm going to say, okay, yeah, we did an amazing job. You know, let them be a part of it. Maybe, you know, one good rule as well is just, you know, not being an asshole. People embrace ideas quickly and work harder on them when they feel it is their own brainchild. So don't push your ideas on others and fight convenience and fight to convince them. If you want a cooperation, let people feel it was their own idea. Well, of course, this can just be done in such a manipulative way. Being like, okay, yes, as you said before as well, even if the person didn't say it. I don't know. That's also a good way to stimulate what Daniel Pink in his wonderful book Drive calls intrinsic motivation, which then is an amazing, well, it's kind of the only motivation that then leads also to action. But the cool thing is, this kind of is the only way in which extrinsic motivation leads to intrinsic motivation, which is a pretty difficult process in general, as far as I remember. Carnegie provides a very good example here. He tells the story of a customer who was stumped among different choices of course. See the paradox of choice. Instead of pitching the products, the salesman asked the person what kind of product he would select best. As he described the product, the prospect came to his own conclusion as to what he should buy. And he happily bought it. Was his own idea. I see. Yeah, that's a good one. Principle 8, try to see things from his point of view. Our natural tendency is to judge people and immediately think we are right and they are wrong, but the world is rarely, if ever, so cut and dry. And one of the biggest secrets to doing well with people is always to see the situation from their point of view as well. At least trying to do so. One of the reasons why being empathetic is a good thing. Dale Carnegie says, if you only take one thing away from how to win friends and influence people, it should be that of making a habit of looking at interactions from the other person's perspective. Not to simply understand their opinion, but why they are even having those opinions in the first place. And also, I just think about certain things. Try to see things from his point of view or from their point of view. Is this a shoe? Or is it a bird? No, it's a bird. Bird in the tree. Well, in general, just doing things other people want to do maybe as well. It depends. I mean, it is a pretty difficult thing to say, always just trying to focus on the other person and, focus on their point of view and whatnot, because in the real end, this may work, yes, and it probably does work as well. I mean, if you are in a certain situation and you see things from his or her point of view, this is definitely going to influence what you say, what you think, how you're going to act, what you recommend as well, and so on and so forth. Of course, I don't know, if you're meeting a new person and this person is, I don't know, is very shy, maybe suggesting to go into a bar with hundreds and thousands of people is probably not going to be the best idea. And by viewing the world from their eyes, this makes it very clear for you. Anyway, I think that I'm going to end the episode there. See you soon. Bye-bye.